Gosh, I hate this timeline. Like, by now you guys have seen the argument between the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and President Trump in the Oval Office today. If you haven't, go watch it. It is more CTV. Let me tell you, it was the absolute peak of diplomacy. That's sarcasm if you don't realize. But Vice President J.D. Vance and President Trump sat there in their nice suits. President Zelenskyy was in his khakis or something. Think about what President Zelenskyy wears in every single picture you've ever seen of him. He looked like he had just been called into the principal's office. Honestly, President Trump spoke to him like he was his daddy throughout the exchange. He kept wagging his finger at him. It's probably more accurate to call Trump his sugar daddy. In fact, the reason for this meeting was to sign a minerals deal that would see the U.S. get access to Ukraine's minerals, partly as repayment for all the aids that they've given to Ukraine to this point, but mostly because Ukraine knows that Europe alone is not able to offer security guarantees should Russia choose to invade them again. Russia is just too big, they're too powerful. To truly guarantee Ukraine's safety, they need that American protection, right? Obviously, you'll remember that before this extended invasion, which started in 2022, Russia had earlier annexed Crimea in 2014. Crimea was Ukrainian territory at that time, right? Zelenskyy was actually in the White House today to sign a deal to give the U.S. access to Ukraine's minerals. That would have been a good economic deal for the U.S., right? Zelenskyy only asked that the U.S. offer some security guarantees to prevent Russia from coming back again and again, right? I would say that's a perfectly reasonable trade. That's a perfectly reasonable request. I'm not entirely sure what Trump was expecting. Regardless, I think this is one of those situations where Trump's deep desire for attention and a big splash backfired. I have no idea why they chose to hash this out in front of the media. Like, I have no idea why Trump thought making a world leader grovel on international television was going to go well. Like, I have no idea why Trump does anything. Like, who was this show for? Apart from the trolls that don't realize how serious this could get very quickly. Anyways, let me go through the interview with you. I've got a few things I want to point out that you may have missed.
We have that tape for you now. We can bring it to you.
What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
So here's the thing here. Trump says he has to say bad things about both parties so that he can soften them up for a deal. So he thought calling Zelenskyy a dictator who started a war on his own country and is ripping off America for gains would make things better somehow. he thought favoring Vladimir Putin to the extent that Russia was actually offering the US some of the minerals on Ukrainian land that they've taken since 2022. He thought that plan was going to work out nice. Like, that was going to soften them up for a peace deal. He says he had to say bad things about Zelenskyy and accuse him of all sorts so as to open up channels of communication with Putin. Okay, so this is where this need for attention gets out of hand. How about you don't say anything? Like, maybe don't make this a soap opera. Maybe use this great relationship you seem to have with Russia to bring them to the table. I'll tell you why he's done that, why he said all the things he has said about Zelenskyy. Yeah, Trump wants peace, but I think what the example of Gaza shows us is that Trump is willing to shaft the little guy if it enriches the United States. Americans might feel dirty about that, but he's been telling you this. He said it even in this interview, not as bluntly as I put it, but essentially. So the idea was probably to show the Ukrainians how hopelessly lost they will be once the US takes away their support, and basically watch them grovel and offer up whatever they can to save themselves. Trump does not care about your optics or your conscience. He cares about profit for the United States, and he cares to look like the anointed savior in doing it. Then he cares about peace. I'm sure deep in his heart there is a desire to see peace reign, but I wouldn't say it's his priority. And some Americans are okay with that. This is what they voted for. America first, innit? Anyways, let's proceed.
One more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014
2014.
and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was,
he killed,
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly
but,
right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right.
Okay, so you don't realize how stupid this is. You've just heard Zelenskyy tell you his concerns. He doesn't want to sign away resources and make a deal knowing that Putin can just turn around and break the deal. Like, J.D. Vance, frankly, was not a good addition to this meeting. He just continued to make everything worse. his whole point to the Ukrainian president here was essentially, you don't have soldiers, you don't have our support, take whatever deal we're offering you and be grateful. That was essentially J.D. Vance's addition to this meeting. Here's where it gets dumber, right? He says it is disrespectful that Zelenskyy was even discussing this in front of the media and in front of the American people. What? Like, I may be wrong here, but I don't think Zelenskyy brought any media from Ukraine. Like, the Trump team allowed the media into a meeting that did not need to happen in the public eye. The vice president and the president then proceed to gang up on Zelenskyy and attempt to intimidate him so he'd grovel in front of the American people. You know? Make America respected again. As I said, it is the absolute peak of diplomacy right here, right? Anyways, let's proceed. This gets ugly very quickly.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's back to you. Far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
you
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
Yes. What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that
thank you to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long.
Okay, so as I told you before, the idea here is to force Ukraine into a deal, however unfavorable. And truthfully, I don't think there's a damn thing Ukraine can do about it. They cannot sustain a war with Russia. And if the US under President Trump decides that they won't sanction Russia anymore for whatever reason, well, suddenly that frees up a lot of resources that Russia can now use to obliterate Ukraine. If you know your history, you'll see why Zelenskyy is tentative here. Like, through the Budapest Memorandum of 1994, Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons. They actually had the third largest nuclear arsenal in the world at the time. They gave that up in exchange for security guarantees. The Ukrainians were offered a guarantee of assistance and non-aggression when they gave up their nuclear weapons. And now they're getting shafted both ways. Now, I'm not saying Ukraine would use their nuclear weapons in an attack. Not should they. Like, nobody wins a nuclear war. But it could have been a useful deterrent to have in this particular moment against Russia. But as it stands, they are basically sitting ducks, right? Anyways, let's continue.
You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying.
I can tell you
You're
again,
running low on soldiers.
Listen, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I wanted this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means.
That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
President. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins.
Dude, I don't think you guys appreciate what kind of comedy gold this is, but this is the peak of diplomacy, you guys. I gave you javelins. Without us, you are fucked. Like, literally, all that remains to be said here is just get on your knees and open your fucking mouth. Sorry. I got carried away there. That's a little filthy. But let's proceed.
You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry, here.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia, the 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together.
Dude, at some point during that last part, you can just see Zelenskyy die inside. Like, you can see it on his face. Like, look at that face. So the reporter asked a valid question here. What if Russia breaks the ceasefire? What is your guarantee? And Trump basically says, well, things happen. That would suck. But he respects me. He wouldn't do it. And I'm like, I think there are different realities here. Trump basically feels Putin wouldn't break an agreement with him because he respects him. Okay. But your term is 4 years maximum, if democracy still exists in 4 years. But it is tremendously short term to only think of Trump's next 4 years, especially if you're in Zelensky's shoes and you've seen your country get pieced up time after time by a bigger neighbor. Trump also gets into this whole Russia hoax situation. He talks about that. This was an investigation by the FBI into alleged Russian interference in the 2016 US presidential elections. This was Trump's first term, right? The summary of what Trump says is basically like, they went through this together. Putin had nothing to do with that. We went through that trauma together. So we're sworn brothers now. That's the way I paraphrase what he said. We trust each other. I'm not even going to touch that one. Okay? I'm not even going to touch that one. But that brings us to the end of the video there. I will say this. Trump is correct. This was must-see TV. Like, I don't know that you will ever see such a thing, like, ever again. Although I don't know with Trump. You never really know, right? All I'm saying here is that it did not have to go down like that. Not in front of the cameras and the media. Not with J.D. Vance and Trump openly undermining Zelenskyy and his country's position and essentially trying to humiliate Ukraine into a deal that isn't worth the paper it is written on. Do you know the other thing I learned today watching the reactions of social media? I heard some people say, well, he doesn't have a choice. He needs to end this war on whatever terms, no matter how unfavorable. Some people even went as far as saying, hey, if America is mining their minerals on Ukrainian soil, that would be enough protection. It's a grift. It's absolutely a grift, you guys. Like, surely Russia would never attack with Americans on the soil, yeah? Yeah? President Trump trusts Putin now, does he not? Like, they're sworn brothers. They've been through stuff together. Look, we all know this is the Riviera of the Middle East promise we saw with Gaza all over again. Trump spots an opportunity to enrich America. I don't think he really gives a fuck. Some might say this is exactly the mandate that the majority of Americans sent him into office with. We all know Russia probably lays low for a while. It took them 8 years to return the last time. But then Putin will wait his time and he will just do it all over again. Actually, as I come to the end of this, you know who was surprisingly fair in this? I was really surprised. I wasn't expecting it. But Fox News did an interview with President Zelenskyy after this whole bust up in the Oval Office, after Trump did a scathing post-interview talking about how disrespectful President Zelenskyy was. But Fox News really surprised me today. Brett Byers sat down with President Zelenskyy and he was very respectful. He asked some really good questions and allowed Zelenskyy to explain his side of what happened. You guys should totally watch that interview. I think you'll really learn a bit more about where Zelenskyy is coming from. I say this because I criticize Fox News a lot, them and CNN, for just being biased slop. But Fox actually went one step further today. They actually did some journalism, so hats off to them. Anyways, why don't you guys let me know what you think? And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and join the conversation. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.